I know I'm not an audiobook person and you're not an audiobook person, but Onyx Storm, the audiobook just came out, the graphic audiobook. I might have to listen.
Okay, wait, should we? Okay, listeners, you don't know this, but we have a road trip planned. Should we listen on our road trip?
Yeah, we could listen on our road trip. I don't know if I want to listen.
There will be boys in the car.
I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe.
I don't know. I
Maybe.
will say there's always those clips on Instagram with like the audiobook, and I will listen to it, and my God, it gives me the ick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I'm just like,
Veden's voice is like higher pitched than I expect it to be. No hate to the audio actor, like you're phenomenal, you do an amazing job.
Yeah.
But like it's not what he sounds like to me, and so I'm just like
I think audiobooks are so tough. I think we've talked about this because like when you're watching TV, it's like I feel like it's different enough from what you picture that you're like, okay, like I recognize that this is a completely different thing from what I have in my head. But when you're just listening to the audiobook and you've already given these characters like voices and you've thought about how they say certain things,
yeah.
I feel like it's a lot tougher. And like if they don't, I mean, I was listening to, I think I was listening to like when Xaden says like fuck love, like when it's giving him head, and it was just so not the way that
I also just don't want to hear that. Like
it was so not the way that I pictured it. It was so much more like porny, and I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know.
This also brings me back to, I know I've sent you a video of this creator that I follow on TikTok named Andrewski, and he only listens to audiobooks, and he listened to the entire Akatar series. And for A Court of Silver Flames, he was like, I can't listen to this in public. My innocent ears. So funny. And so true. Like I just can't.
I watched a clip last night, and it was the scene. It was a very emotional scene in A Court of Silver Flames. Let's put it that way. Kind of like the big scene. Mm-hmm. And I hated it. Again, it's me. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying anything like that. It's just me personally, and audiobooks like don't mash. But I am thinking about trying, I know I texted you about this, but I am genuinely thinking about trying Powerless on audiobook because I haven't read it. So I don't have like a baseline for what it's supposed to sound like. Yeah. I might do that because I feel like I need an audiobook. We're going to do a lot of driving. I'm going to do a lot.
Yeah. I'd be probably more pro Powerless audiobook than Onyx Storm.
But you don't even know what's coming. I have no idea. I don't know that
we all don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. It's funny that you don't want Connor. Like, I'm begging Derek to read these books. I'm like, please
I want him to read them. I don't want him to hear them. He can also hear me right now. I want you to read them. Yeah. Anyways,
I had a funny story I was about to tell you, but we can talk about the podcast.
Since we're live, we might as well speak to our listeners. Hey guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby.
I'm Ronnie.
Am I doing the intro? Oh shit. This is Dragons in the Details. Oh, I'm so unprepared. This is Dragons in the Details, where we pick apart our favorite fantasy series over the course of an undetermined number of episodes. You guys know that already, or maybe you don't. If you don't, welcome. We're happy you're here. This season we will be focused on the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Onyx Storm. If you have not finished Onyx Storm, I was about to say Iron Storm again, which I do all the time. If you have not finished Onyx Storm, stop, go no farther. This is a spoiler heavy podcast. Go finish it, come back, save these episodes, listen to it when you're done. We have a lot of people who are doing that now, especially as we just referenced now that the audiobook is out. I think a lot of people are going to listen to that audiobook. Hopefully you come here and listen to us after that. Listen to us yap crazy shit about this book that may or may not be based in reality. Other disclaimer, due to the contents of this series, this podcast is rated R and should only be listened to by mature audiences. This is not a podcast for children, mostly because we curse. We very rarely talk about sex, although I did talk about head not 5 minutes ago. So we run the gamut here.
First, though.
What? I do think that was
the first reference.
I actually do think that's one of the first times we talked about sex on this podcast.
And I could live without it for the rest of the podcast.
Is wild. All right, different spice tolerance levels, I see.
Just talking about it on a public podcast. That's all. I'll read it all day.
All right. Each week we dive into a specific topic in depth. This week we are doing a dream deep dive. So we are diving deep into all of the dreams. Well, I don't know about all the dreams, but we're diving deep into most of the dreams that occur in the Empyrean series. If you've read it, you know why we're doing that. We come with receipts. We have quotes to back up any theory, so you can follow along if you're skeptical, as always, unless we come up with a theory on the fly. and then we don't have receipts. And then you guys usually come in and tell us why we're wrong, and that's fine.
That's fine.
We like it.
Good.
We love it. This episode is focusing on Violet's dreams, specifically the ones in which we know she's walking into other people's dreams. That's your spoiler alert. That's your last spoiler alert. If you're still here and you don't want to be spoiled, goodbye. All right. So what's our fun question about dreams?
I didn't have one.
We don't have one. Do you? Okay, I will.
Ad-lib
Do you like this as a plot mechanism? I mean, dreams is kind of a common trope. Do you like the way Rebecca handles dreams in this series?
I have liked it the way that it's been presented so far, because as I reread them, I was like, oh, it's so interesting that I thought that this was Violet and it made sense as Violet, and now we know that it's Xaden, and I still have questions about specific things in the dreams that I thought made more sense with Violet. So I like it in that regard. I think I'm going to like it a lot more now that she knows that she can do stuff in them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting too, because like as we were doing, so first of all, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not at all convinced that, I think one of these dreams has to be Violet. I think it makes no sense.
We're probably thinking of the same one.
Yeah. There's a very specific line. I think it has to be Violet. We'll get there.
Or I think somebody else.
Oh, all right. Fascinating. Love it. I think it's very clear going back and rereading this. Usually dreams are like prophecies, right? Like usually it's like this is what will happen. And that doesn't seem to be what's happening in these series. It's not this is what will happen, because in some cases we know what's happened, and what happened in the dream is not what happened in the Battle of Basgiath, for example.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting line that she's drawing between what will happen and what kind of the dream walker in this case thinks will happen. And how those differ or are similar. I like it. I actually feel like she's kind of taken this trope and is reworking it and turning it on its head. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. I think she's doing a good job. I'm very curious to see where she goes with it. And I just love when we learn that something has been happening under our noses the entire time. Like, I'm relieved that her second signet had manifested super early and we found out way later, because it makes theorizing way more fun.
Oh my God. This book is such a gift for people like you and me.
I know. And a curse, but yes.
It's like what Lost was, right? Hopefully it doesn't end the way Lost ended, but like it's just such a fucking puzzle box. It's like every time I go back, I'm like, God, there's even more here to unpack. I mean, we just did History Part 2 and we walked away being like, okay, we still don't know anything. We still don't know anything.
I know. And I feel like yesterday I was trying to wrap a history prep, and I went down like 7 rabbit holes, none of which I brought up on the podcast. Yeah. I was just like, I can't even coherently talk about this. So there's still more there.
I went into a deep rabbit hole about all the different languages that exist in this world. Who speaks what language? What languages are like logosyllabic, as we talked about? Like, yeah, it's just got layers, man, like chocolate cake.
Yeah, like chocolate cake.
All right. Do we want to start with corrections, omissions, and social media shoutouts? I think we both have one we want to talk about.
Omission. Well, I don't know if omission is the right word for it. We're doubling down. So this is going to be kind of a 2-part omission, because Abby and I both looked into this after our last episode. So the last episode that you heard, I think, is mailbag number 2. And we had a moment where we were talking about Brennan not knowing Old Lucerish and Violet thinking that he did, and he's got a rune-shaped scar on his hand, all sorts of weird stuff with that guy. And we were just like, what if Brennan's not Brennan? And
you. This was your theory. And I want to give you credit because I think it's a great theory.
I think it's a great theory. But I went through and looked at every instance of Brennan across, well, probably not every instance. I tried to do my best, but it wasn't as thorough as I would have liked. I think there's cases for and against it. So when I first spoke this into the universe, it was actually supposed to be a pre-cog corner theory, and then I just decided it wasn't worth it. And now I'm like, there's enough, but there's also plenty that's against it. So I want to talk through like both of the sides that I found and get your reactions and get whatever I missed.
I literally have a list that says pro Brennan, anti Brennan. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Okay, so context again, we are wondering whether Brennan is not Brennan. The spark for that was a bunch of stuff, but the kind of nail in the coffin was Violet thought that he would be able to translate war external. He was not able to. There are some other minor things that we'll talk through.
And so the theory is that someone else is happening in Brennan's body, basically.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Brennan is human wyvern or something else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how it came about. As we were
Yeah, it came
talking
out with the
about
wyvern.
wyvern. Yeah.
We don't think he's human wyvern and that he's just being mindlessly controlled by Venom. We think
Yeah.
actually someone is like inhabiting his body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is inhabiting his body.
Yeah.
Yes. And the reason that we think that is we were talking about how wyvern are created. We know that they're not hatched, so they're not their own form of life. We know that they're created, and we know that Violet used the flesh of them to avoid being drained because it had repurposed magic. So we were like, what was the flesh of the wyvern before it was wyvern? And now we're thinking about could there be like some weird form of necromancy happening, basically? Okay, so reasons that Brennan probably is Brennan. One, it is mentioned many, many times when Violet first learns that he's alive. Maybe too many times. That he's just so him. Smile, eyes, it's really him. Such a Brennan move.
Yeah.
So classic Brennan. Like, there is very much a familiarity and like reassurance to Violet, who is seeing her brother alive for the first time in 6 years, who she thought was dead. She's like, okay, this is Brennan. Like, everything that he's doing right now is familiar. Like, I get it. It's Brennan. That was a little bit of a double-edged one for me because I was like, you say it a lot of times. I'm convinced. Like, you said his name. He's here. Like, he's there. Yeah. He's also super defensive of Violet. So Xaden brings Violet to him on the brink of death multiple times, and he is pissed off, especially the second time. Like, what did you do to my sister? And he is just like possessive and protective of his sisters in a very elder brotherly way. Violet says many times that he looks just like dad. The most convincing one for me that he's Brennan is Marb is still alive, and we've seen him riding Marb. Like, at first I was like, I kind of forget any mention of Marv. Like, did we actually see him?
Yeah. Marv is definitely in the picture.
Yeah.
Because Brennan rides a couple times, but he rides to a Chaldeer when they're trying to get the luminary, and he rides to Basgiath, and yeah, Marv is in the picture.
Yeah, he's riding. He also recognized the bracelet on Mira as belonging to their grandmother, which I would argue, like, other people might recognize that if they know Grandma Niara, but he specifically does recognize it. Side note, I think the knots on that bracelet are Tirish knots, so we should talk about that at some point.
I think we should also talk about the bracelet that Violet gives Xaden that has a piece of Briorson house on it. Oh, shit.
Brennan made it. Yeah, you had Brennan make it. Yes. Those were the things that I had that were like pretty clearly like Brennan is probably Brennan based on these things. Did you have any others?
Immediately, almost on like page 2 of Iron Flame, he remembers the biscuits the cook made for them in Chaldeer. So that's like a pretty hardcore memory. He says he misses Kaori, so he knew who Kaori was. Yeah. He knows Tirish. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of verbiage around him being Brennan, but I admit it was, so I didn't write down the exact line, but basically it was like when Brennan is getting Violet to eat the biscuits, he says, oh yeah, isn't it just like the cook used to make for us in Chaldeer? And my eyebrows kind of raised at that. I'm like, the lady doth protest a bit too much on that one, I feel like that's a little too like leading the horse to water. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it could be, I hate to say it, but it could be bad writing. But I don't know. Rebecca's a really good writer. I don't know. Once we had this idea in our head, I was a little like, oh, well, that is a bit of, like, who actually talks that way?
Yeah. It was like the narrator was trying too hard to convince us that this guy is actually Brennan. Yeah. So in that vein, the case is against. So Brennan does not remember the Fables of the Baron. He thinks that wyvern are hatched, not made, which you would think that he maybe would have like thought about that a little more deeply if he did know that at one point, given the battle that they're currently fighting and the fact that he knew about wyvern, even though the cadets did not. Like, I don't know. He just doesn't remember the Fables of the Baron. And he remembers a lot of things. Like, he is the most, like, if Violet is Asher Protege number 1, Brennan is Asher Protege number 2, right? So it's surprising that he's forgetting basic things. Sigale hates him.
Sigale hates him.
He does not know Old Lucerish. Not he doesn't remember Old Lucerish, like he's not confident in it. He just straight up doesn't know it. And so I know that like him knowing Tirish was a case for him being Brennan, but like plenty of other people know Tirish. And not many people know Old Lucerish. He calls his mom General Sorengale, which is not that crazy because he's like trying to separate himself from her. Yeah. But he calls her General Sorengale like rather effortlessly and is really harsh on her as well. Like he's like, she can basically rot in hell for all I care. Like fuck her. And even like Mira and Violet, after they know everything Lilith has done, still like love her as their mom. Violet specifically says when Brennan is getting orders, she says, "In their place is a man I barely recognize, an officer I don't know. Brennan may as well be a stranger." So there's that. Deborah says, "Do you not remember how battle brief works?" At one point, like he just forgets everything and just starts talking. And she's like, "Do you know how this goes?" Like, you don't do that. So he forgets that. Brennan is also like seems to be really skilled in runes. When he's leaving the site where Mira almost bled out, he was like, "I have a dozen runes I can leave. Like I can leave runes for you." But they didn't teach runes at Besgaeth, which means he would have had to become an expert in the last 5 years, unless we don't know something.
I don't think that's that crazy. He's been in Tyrandor. Yeah. But it's a good point.
None of this is that crazy, in my opinion. Brennan also basically confirms that he died. He said to Mira in chapter 39 of Iron Flame, Mira's like making some case for, I don't remember what. And he says, "You weren't killed. Like, I was killed."
Yeah.
So he died, like fully died dead, which makes his resurrection make even less sense if we think about like the limits of power. And finally, this is also a weak one, but Brennan is said to be like a really good poison master by Mira, Xaden, and Violet. And I don't really feel like that's come into play.
We have seen no poison. We've seen no poison.
Right. That we expected it to. So kind of relatedly, maybe not. The last thing I have on my list is that Asher's chest pains started right after Brennan's death.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 additional things, and then I have theories I guess I want to talk through with you.
Do it. Yep.
Other things that are new about Brennan. He has coppery streaks in his eyes. Violet makes a point to say the coppery streaks in his eyes are new. But we know copper is pretty close to red. So that is a little sketchy, and that's a little Venin coded. Yep. The other thing, and I had to kind of go back and reread this a couple times to make sure I was following it correctly. He can speak Crovelish. When they go to Corden, he starts speaking to the guards that have come out to meet them in Crovelish. I don't know if he's good at Crovelish. I don't know if he's fluent in it, but he is speaking Crovelish to them, which is not a language that Violet ever mentions knowing that he can speak.
Yeah, good point.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he have gone with them in place of Dane?
Yeah. I mean, I believe I can look at my list. Violet doesn't speak it well. Dane speaks it well. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that he can speak Crovelish, and there's been basically no note made of that at all. So I thought the first group of arguments you made, I thought you were going for maybe he's Asher. Maybe Asher's in his body.
Yeah.
But he doesn't remember how the Wyvern are made.
Yeah. And he would also know so much more. Like, he would know Old Lucerish.
Yeah.
If he were Asher.
Yeah. So it's hard.
Yeah.
And then with the second round of things you were saying, I was like, oh, well, maybe he's Fen, because he seems to be so comfortable in Tyrandor. Yeah. But then how would he know about the biscuits in Kaldir? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough to say.
Well, I mean, Fen was nobility, so I don't think that anything that happened at any important outposts is out of the realm of him knowing. The thing that I can't get around with the Fen theory, like Asher I could even see, but Fen, like, is not a rider. And I just really doubt that Marv is, like, down to, like, unless it's, like, literally somebody inhabited his body and, like, combined with him somehow. If that makes sense.
I feel like that's actually what it would have to be for this to be accurate. It's like, it's Brennan and another. It's Brennan,
like
but not
the life
quite.
force of somebody else. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then, like, I think we also have to think about, like, who was there. So, like, Fen was there, but then he got killed.
Naolan was there.
And we don't know anything about him. So, like, he could have been originally from Tyrandor. That's totally possible. And we've not been given any reason to not believe that.
But I thought about this, and I thought, well, and this doesn't necessarily disprove it, but Brennan needs Sloane to save Mira.
Yeah.
And if he had this, like, I don't know, if he had part of Naolan, if he had some siphoning abilities, would he have needed Sloane? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess,
yes.
If you're assuming that he absorbed the power of, like, the signet of that person, too, then, yeah, he wouldn't have. I know, and then I also went down kind of a path to try and figure out whether Brennan, like, could have another signet of some type, and the only thing I can think of is, like, he is a brilliant tactician, like, that's his bit, and so could he have something like Melgren and Auric, where he can see paths of battles so that he can, like, determine the best strategy. But I think that's a long shot, honestly. And I don't know who would have had it either.
Yeah.
Except maybe Fen.
I don't know. I made the same list you made. basically. And I walked away being like, I don't think there's enough evidence one way or another. I like the idea, but it is like he's Brennan minus some parts of himself plus other parts of someone else. Yeah. I don't know.
So, don't know. Brennan is a fishy topic, and he's got an orange dragon, and we know how people feel about orange dragons.
Yeah, but Imogen has an orange dragon, and if
I
she
know.
breaks bad, I'm gonna fucking revolt.
One other, like, throwaway comment, but it feels like not a throwaway comment. Do you remember when Lilith told Violet that she was all that was left of Asher?
Yeah. And
What do you make of that?
Violet says that's not true.
Yeah. She specifically was like, Mira has his laughter and his warmth. Like, why would Lilith say Violet's all that's left of Asher? I don't know. Food for thought. Okay.
Because Lilith might be a stone cold bitch. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, in conclusion on is Brennan, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. We're not sure. We had a good time looking into it. There's enough to look into. I'll say that. Like, there's something going on with that man.
There's definitely, as many other people have concluded, something is up with Brennan.
As just about everybody who's read these books has concluded. Yeah. You heard it here first. Something's up with Brennan.
Now we dive in. All right. So I think the way this is going to go is we're just going to read the full text of the dreams, which I apologize for. I know that's not always the best listening experience, but I think it's what we have to do for this one. And then we're going to get into kind of notes and questions. Does that work for you, Ron?
Yes.
All right. So I guess I'll start. So this is the first dream. I should mention the actual first dream in this book is the dream that Violet has in Fourth Wing, when she's in the archives with Asher. I do have it here. I have notes on it, but I don't know that we're going to cover it. I didn't find anything super relevant, and that's obviously before Andarna has started channeling, so I don't think it's a dream walking dream. But there is that dream. There's stuff there. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end. But this is the first dream in Iron Flame that we later find out is a candidate for dream walking. So I guess I'm just going to read all this text right now. We'll see how this goes. All right. Faster. I have to run faster. Fear holds my throat shut as a tidal wave of death chases me across the sunburned field to where Terran waits, his back turned. Wind roars around me, stealing every other sound, even my own heartbeat. Terran's going to die, and he doesn't even see it coming for him. Gold flickers near the tip of his wing. Gods, no. Andarna, she's here. She shouldn't be here. The wave nips at my heels, transforming the ground beneath my feet into an ashen, desiccated wasteland. There's nowhere to run, Ryder. A hooded figure steps into my path out of nowhere, raising one arm. I'm yanked off my feet by an unseen force and lifted into the air, completely immobilized. The wave of death halts and the wind falls silent, as if he stopped time. He shifts his staff to the other hand, then pulls back the thick maroon hood of his floor-length robes with gnarled fingers, revealing the white of his scalp under his slicked-back, thinning hair. Shadows mark the gaunt hollows of his cheekbones on an eerily youthful face, and his lips are cracked and dry, just like the land behind me. But it's his red-rimmed eyes, the distended veins spiderwebbing across his temples and cheeks that have me fighting to open my mouth, straining to scream. Venin. So disappointing, he lectures, as if he's my sage and not the teacher of the dark wielder I killed on Terran's back. All of that power at your fingertips, and yet you insist on fleeing over and over, using the same failed tactics, and expecting what? He tilts his head to the side. To escape? My ribs tighten around my lungs as terror takes hold, and I force a garbled sound through my throat, but it does nothing to warn Terran and Andarna. There is no escaping me, Ryder, he whispers, his finger ghosting over my cheek, but not quite touching. Fight me and die or join me and live beyond the ages, but you will never escape me, not when I've waited centuries for someone with your power. Fuck you. It comes out as a whisper, but I mean it with every bone in my body. Death it is. He looks so disappointed as he lowers his hand. Wind howls as I fall to the ground. A scream tears through my body as a wave of agony rolls over my skin and bones, leeching the very essence of my energy until... That's all I wrote down. Is there more at the end there? I think that's the end.
She then wakes up.
She wakes up. Yeah. Then she wakes up. All right.
So I guess to start before this stream, Violet is talking to Arik and finds out that he knows about the Venin. And Xaden is not at Basgiath right before this. Right after the stream, she's suddenly with Xaden, who is walking her to the Basgiath Forge. And so if, like, Xaden's not sleeping on flights, right? Like, when he's flying to Basgiath, he is not asleep. He is riding Sigale. Probably. And so this might be a candidate in which she was not with him when this
They can sleep in the saddle. Violet sleeps in her saddle.
Not comfortable. Yeah, I guess that maybe he's dreaming while he's asleep on Sigale. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we know, we're told
point.
this can happen. Like when Violet figures it all out, we're told that they've been miles apart before when she's found.
Yes, they've definitely been miles apart, but I thought you were leading towards, and Xaden wasn't asleep when this dream happened, but I think he could have.
I think he probably was. Like, I think this was probably, like, if I'm trying to put time against this dream, I think it's more likely aligned with the time before the dream than the time after, which is like when Xaden was wherever he was, Samara or something. So, I mean, Terranin and Darna are there. And when I was first reading these dreams, I was like, oh, maybe like Terran is just getting confused with Sigale, but Andarna's pretty not mistakable, right? So like, why are Terran and Andarna in Xaden's dreams? I think the easiest explanation is they're the symbolism of Violet being there. Wherever they are, Violet is, and maybe he's trying to protect Violet. But I think it's interesting, right? Like, we don't really see Sigale in this dream.
Yeah.
Xaden is
Sigale is not in any of these dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sigale is just missing. Yeah.
I also think it's interesting that the quote, the wave of death halts and the wind falls silent as if he stopped time. Like, is the sage stopping time? Is
Right.
this now coming back?
Right. So does Berwin have the ability to stop time too? Or is this just something he can do in dreams? Like, because we know he has power of the dreams. Like, basically I see it as an Inception scenario where he is creating these dreams, these realities for Xaden, and then Xaden just kind of walks right into them. Yeah, I know. Is that back on the table?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't
Might
know.
have something to do with my Pre-cog corner theory.
Maybe. Interesting. And then the other piece that I took note of was fight me and die or join me and live beyond the ages. We know that Venin, especially from his description, right? He's got a white scalp and slicked back thinning hair, but his skin is youthful. He has a youthful face. So he seems, I don't know how to interpret like thinning hair in this scenario. Like, does that mean that he was old when he turned? And like,
for the eerily youthful face, I thought he was not old when he turned.
I thought so too, but Theophany has a full head of
Theophany
hair.
has a full head of hair. It is silver though, so we don't know if she would have like been going gray.
Yeah, true, maybe. And then the quote, I've waited centuries for someone with your power. I think when we first read that for the first time, I was like, they've been waiting for Violet's power. That makes a lot of sense because Violet has this like kind of unique signet. We know that shadow wielding is particularly powerful, but like, why have they been waiting on it?
Yeah. I had a couple, I don't have an answer to that one, but I do think I think we talked about this in our Xaden episode too, right? They've been waiting for centuries for someone with that power. I have a couple notes. Fight me and die or join me and live beyond the ages, but you will never escape me. Not when I've waited centuries for someone with your power. Okay. So waited centuries for someone with your power kind of disproves our Berwin is Grandpa Riorsan theory, right? Like if Berwin has been alive for centuries. However, we also like hypothesize there's kind of a hive mind thing going on with the Venin. So like it might not be that Berwin himself has been waiting centuries. It might be that the Venin have been waiting centuries and he's just kind of part of that hive mind situation, which we should have thought about with our Brennan episode, with what we were just talking about with Brennan. Could Brennan be part of a hive mind now? But so maybe it disproves it. Maybe he's not Grandpa Riorsan. I've seen people use that quote to disprove that he's Naolan. I still think it could be that. I still think he could be Grandpa Riorsan. I'm still pretty sold on that, but I think that bears thinking about. The other thing about this quote that I also thought was interesting was he said, "Fight me and die or join me." Like he's saying, I've waited centuries for someone with your power, but I'm okay with you dying. Mm-hmm. And like, why does that make any sense?
And that's referenced multiple times. I think in a later dream, he's going to say like,
yeah,
like the one who watches thinks we should just kill you. So
I was thinking about this, and we've talked about how it seems like the Venin higher ups can have multiple signets. Mm-hmm. And one of our listeners, I have kind of two theories on this. One of our listeners named Jess DM me, and it's kind of a long quote, but I'll read it. I'm loving this podcast and only on episode 5 on Venin. So you guys may have covered this elsewhere, but you guys are talking about how Venin recruit/share powers. To me, it sounds like an MLN scheme, basically, right? So initiates have to invest to get started, channel, and then the sages get the powers of the ASIMs below them once they are recruited under them. This explains why we didn't see fire wielding after Resin. The fire wielder for that sage was one of the Venin that was killed, right? So in Resin, we see that that Berwin can like throw balls of fire at people, and that never comes back. Then the Mavens get the powers of their... It comes back in Suniva.
Don't they burn Suniva?
I guess I just assumed that was the wyvern.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Then the Mavens get the powers of their respected sages, and then the top Venin get everyone's powers. It would gatekeep the best powers for the highest ranked, while also allowing people in the company to expand their powers and ensure a required level of recruitment. So basically, that's one theory. It's basically an MLM scheme. When you recruit someone, you get their powers. So that would make sense for the join me part. But for the die part, I'm like, okay, is the other option here that Venin somehow absorbed the signets of everyone they kill? Like, is that how Venin are getting signets? Because we also know that signets are supposed to be a unique gift, but a unique combination of the dragon and the rider. And with the Venin, there's no dragon. So how does it make sense that they have signets? Like, that doesn't really make sense. But is it for every basically rider that they kill, they absorb that person's signet?
Yeah.
Is that why we get this reference multiple times? Like kill, I'm either going to kill you or you're going to join me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting thought. I guess I'm trying to think of where that hasn't proven true. Like, Jack seems to be able to do things, right? Like throw out shields. But who has Jack killed?
I mean, it kind of doesn't work with the balance, though.
Yeah, it totally ruins the balance.
It ruins the balance, so maybe not. So I just don't know why they're okay with killing these people when they've waited centuries for someone with their power. But maybe it's just, well, better for you to be dead than for my enemy to have you.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Other notes I had here. In this dream, it seems like Berwin is unwilling or unable to touch Xaden.
He gets close, but he doesn't touch.
He gets close, but he won't touch him. The other thing is, and this is why I was talking about the dreams are not necessarily the future, Berwin is wearing a maroon robe in this dream. At Basgiath, which is when I think this is supposed to be taking place, is the Battle of Basgiath, right? He's wearing a blue robe. So it's not like a one-to-one match. It's not like, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is like Berwin creating a reality for Xaden, saying, this is what I want you to think is going to happen. Basically.
Yep.
The other thing I had here is the last sentence. So a scream tears through my body as a wave of agony rolls over my skin and bones, leaching the very essence of my energy. So I think this is interesting because this is kind of the first account that we have of what it feels like to be drained. Like, Dane gets drained, but we don't know what it feels like for him. Now we know what it feels like. And once again, this is different than what Violet talks about on the mat with Jack, right? Like, so with Jack, she says, I scream as I'm shaken by an internal force I don't understand, as though he's forcing his own power into my body, shocking me with 1,000 stings of vibrating energy. With this, it's leeching the very essence of my energy. So they're opposites.
Yeah.
So I think that's just
also
something to think about
noteworthy
again.
that he, like, the draining is what wakes him up, and I think there's several dreams in which, like, dying is the conclusion of the dream.
Yeah.
And it's not actually killing the dreamer. So
yeah, that's true. So did Berwin kill Asher in his sleep? I don't know.
But then, we should keep going because there's more.
Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about, this also disproves my theory that you had to have channeled for Berwin to talk to you in dreams, because Xaden has not channeled at this point. This is before Basgiath, right? Yep. So that proved I have been disproven. So I don't know why Berwin's not over here talking to everyone in dreams. And
maybe he is. Maybe Violet's just only seeing Xaden's because they're bonded and he's easy to walk into.
All right. Do you want me to read the next one, or you want to read the next one? So this is the next one. Bold choice to move so far from what you perceive as...
Sorry, before we start reading. This is chapter 37 now?
Yeah, it's chapter 37. Throat working, I struggle to relax, to calm my heart, and change my breathing in hopes of waking myself up. But it's only my mind that knows this isn't real. My body is very much locked into the illusion. You can only hunt me to the wards, I croak. Yet you sleep beyond them. A grotesque smile tilts his cracked mouth, and the longest night has yet to pass. He reaches for a poison-tipped dagger. And then he wakes up.
So, perceived to be the safety of the wards, number one. Like, they know that the wards are not working. Jack has told us there could be Venin creeping around in Basgiath. And it frankly wasn't that hard to alter the ward stone so that flyers could channel. Like,
right. Well, this is before the Orishan ward stone has been put up.
I know. I'm more just saying, like, the possibility of the wardstone being altered such that Venin can completely and totally exist behind them. I feel like we know that's possible now. Totally possible. I feel like we also learned about potentially 2 new signets that Berwin has in this dream. First, he reads her mind, or
he reads Xaden's
mind. Yeah, Xaden's mind.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trapped in this fucking nightmare again in his head. And Berwin responds, of course again. You will never be free of me. And they don't have a bond yet at this point. I mean, maybe they do because Berwin's like...
But Xaden hasn't channeled.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this. It's kind of inherent in the dream walking. I think that you are reading that person's mind, right? Like, you are just walking around in their mind. So like,
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
that he can sense Zayden's thoughts within this dream.
I agree with that.
What's the other one?
The other one is a little bit of a rogue one, but he says the longest night has yet to pass. And I'm wondering if he's talking about the 12 hours that they went missing at the end of Onyx Storm. The only really long night that I can think of in this series is at the end of Onyx Storm, where they get back at 3 in the morning, literally.
So the Battle of Basgiath happens on the winter solstice. So that's what I assumed this was about, but I like this. Let's dive into this one.
Yeah. Maybe it's winter solstice, but either way, like, isn't that potentially precognitive either way?
Well, if it's winter solstice, then we know that Berwin was planning to attack that night.
Yeah.
But this is interesting because I think this. So I had this note in a couple of these dreams, like, where are they? Where is this sunburned field? Because it's not at Basgiath, and he describes a sunburned field and frozen ground, right? So like the where of it is very weird. So I don't know if it's weird because it's a dream and things are weird in dreams, or if this is not where it was. I don't know what's going on, but we know that Melgren thinks that the Venin are going to attack Samara on the solstice, and what actually happens is they go to Basgiath, right? So maybe he's showing him Samara here, thinking that they will go to Samara. But yeah, I just assumed that was, hey, we're planning to attack on the longest night, and I'm giving you a little clue, or Rebecca's giving us a little clue that this will happen on solstice.
Maybe. Interesting. So the sunburn field, when does Drathus actually come into play? Not till the end,
till Onyx
right?
Storm.
Yeah. So okay.
And Drathus, he's dreaming about a green meadow. All of Iron Flame, it's
the sunburned field.
It's the sunburned field. Yeah. Is not at Basgiath, as far as I can tell.
But there is a spot at Basgiath where all of this happens. Like, Brennan wanted to go with him to mend the spot.
By the river. By the river. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's by the river. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where it's supposed to take place. Sunburnt, frozen. Like, that's got to be north, and north is just Lucera.
I don't know. It seems almost impossible to me, actually. Like, if you either have a dry, arid, sunburned field, or you have frozen ground, right?
Maybe it's the Baron.
Was a thing about if it was like referencing Lilith somehow, because we know Lilith can bring the temperature down.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I had a note about, you will never be free of me. I will hunt you to the ends of the continent and beyond. Right. And I went back to this, what we were referencing before, the study about Venin. In the first 24 hours of removal from source magic, the subject in ASIM presented as even-tempered. Both withdrawal quickly revealed the subject's true nature, requiring the subject's immediate transfer to stage 2 of the study. Results can be found with group 33B under the category death by fire, and subsequently group 46C under the category death by poisons. Venin can't be away from magic, is what this study is concluding, right? Because 24 hours removal from the source magic. How is Berwin going to pursue them beyond the continent when we've been told that there's only magic on the continent, right? We were being lied to again, I think. Or it's a throwaway line. I don't know.
Or it's the water.
Yeah. All right. And my other notes on this one, my body is very much locked into the illusion. We're getting dream sex, guys. That's sorry. We're talking about sex again, right? Like, we're getting dream sex in the next book.
It's gonna happen. It's okay.
Yeah. And then I had just a note on the longest night has yet to pass. So that's what I had for that one.
Just a quick before and after check. So before the dream, they had arrived in Orisha with a bunch of dragons and riders from Basgiath. And after the dream, Violet and Zayden wake up in Orisha together. So they are together for this one.
They are together for this one. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. This next one I think is very interesting. I'm suspended again over that sunburned field. The death wave, a heartbeat from overtaking me once the sage releases me from his hold, and he will. He does every time. I recognize the scenario for what it is now, a recurring nightmare, and yet I'm still held powerless, still too slow to reach Taryn, still can't force my consciousness to snap me awake. I grow weary of this. Now wield, the sage whispers, his robe's purple tonight. Rip free. Show me the power you use to slay our forces above the trading post. Prove me right that you are a weapon worth watching, worth retrieving. His hand hovers over mine but doesn't touch me. The one who watched thinks you'll never yield, thinks that we should kill you before you grow into your full abilities. My stomach turns, my mouth watering with nausea as the bony hand drifts upwards, pausing at my neck. Usually jealousy always sways the tongue of young wielders. He drags a single long fingernail down my throat, exposing an expanse of tan arm under his robes, and I twitch, fear accelerating my heartbeat. I force my mouth to open, but no sound comes out. Touching me is new. Touching me is terrifying. The rest turn for power, he whispers. It's coming so close I can smell a hint of something sweet on his breath. But you will come for something much more dangerous, much more volatile. He wraps his hand around my throat loosely. I manage to shake my head in denial. You will. His dark, eyelashless eyes narrow, and the jagged fingernails slice into my skin with an all-too-real bite of pain. You'll tear down the wards yourself when the time comes. The temperature plummets, and my next exhale is visible in the frozen air. I blink, and snow covers the ground. The only warmth is a quickly cooling trickle along my neck. And you won't do it for something as trite as power or as easily satiable as greed, he promises in a whisper, but for the most illogical of mortal emotions, love. Or you'll die. You both will. He flicks his wrist, and a bone-jarring crack tears me from my sleep. All right. What do you want to talk about with this one?
Well, the first note I took is show me the power you use to take down our forces above the trading post. Again, brilliant writing, like works for both Violet and Xaden. So at this point, I am still none the wiser the first time I'm reading this. Again, with we should kill you before you grow into your full abilities. What do you get out of killing them, if anything?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Are you just avoiding his wrath if he's on the non-Venin side? I don't know. The sage touches him in this dream for the first time, which is huge, right? This is the first time we're told, like, okay, you can make contact, you can actually do something in this dream. Again, the dream sex, but also like other implications. The reason that I think this still is not to the point where we're gonna see dream deaths yet is because he does kill him in this dream, and Xaden just wakes up. Like, it's all fine. I'm curious what you think the most interesting line of the stream is. For me, it's, you'll tear down the wards yourself when the time comes. And I think that's interesting because I don't think it's happened yet.
Okay, so I disagree with your first point. Show me the power you use to slay our forces above the trading post. I have read this like 3 times now. I don't think Xaden kills a single wyvern, like in Resin, the way that Violet does. Right? Like, I actually think this is Violet's dream. I don't think this is Xaden's dream. I think this is Violet's dream. I think that might be why Berwin can touch her now. Because for whatever reason, she's also walking. Right. Which maybe that means we're not getting dream sex. That would suck. But yeah, Xaden doesn't slay the wyvern in Resin. Not really. It's Violet. Right? So show me the power you use to slay our forces above the trading post. This could be the lightning wielding. Could be the time stopping too.
Yeah.
Like, that also happens. What if actually this whole time they've just been after time stopping? Because we know Berwin is referencing it in this dream. Whether or not he can actually do it, we don't know. But that is the power that keeps coming back in this dream.
But if I like this a lot, but if that's the case, so much is about to open up here. This is also the dream in which he says you'll turn for love.
And you'll tear down the wards yourself.
And you'll tear down the wards yourself. So is this again, like, is Violet going to turn and tear down the wards, and that just hasn't happened yet?
I don't know. But yes, either way, you'll tear down the wards yourself. Has not happened. Doesn't mean it will happen, because we know that some things in these dreams don't happen. Right. So I just really don't. I've like bashed my head against the wall on this one. I just don't think this is Xaden's dream. I know she says, and I went back and looked because I'm like, oh no, there's this line about every dream is Xaden's dream. But what Violet actually says is every dream I remember is Xaden's dream.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's the argument to be made that she's writing these books, so obviously she remembers this dream. I don't know. But it's not Xaden slaying the wyvern above the trading post. It's definitely Violet.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is also where we get the reference of the one who watched. I know some of you have reached out and say, what are you talking about? The one who watched. This is the one who watched. So we don't know who this Venin is, but we know someone was watching, whether they were there physically or they were watching through like a little crystal ball thing, or it's a signet. We don't know.
Yeah. But if this is, so I'm just going to keep pulling this thread. So if this is Violet's dream, then does this still need to be Berwin? Like, if this is a real dream, do we know for sure that Berwin is the one who's there? Because this is also the tan arm dream. So we were basing this off of being Xaden's dream, and this was our kind of main ammo that Berwin is Grandpa Ryerson. But if this is Violet's dream, is that Xaden? I don't think so. But if this is Violet's dream, then that becomes a possibility.
Wait, you think this is Xaden?
Well, I'm just saying, like, that being Berwin was predicated on the fact that Xaden is the POV. So it cannot be Xaden. If it's Violet's, then does it need to be Berwin, or can it actually be Xaden? I don't think so, because of what the sage actually says, right? Like, you'll turn for love, it's more dangerous, it's the most illogical of mortal emotions, kills her.
Yeah, and it's also like, I grow weary of this now wield. Like, Xaden is intimately familiar with Violet's power. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, Rebecca has said that there's only one other person who can teach Violet how to dreamwalk. So I assume that Berwin is the
That
only
it's
other
Berwin.
dreamwalker.
Yeah. I guess my final rebuttal for, like, maybe this is actually still Xaden's dream is before the dream, they're at Rhiannon's sister's house. Xaden's not there. But after the dream, she does wake up next to Xaden.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by that. Here's another argument that it's actually Violet's dream. So she says the temperature plummets. There's been frost on the ground in the other dreams, but I don't think it specifically said the temperature plummets.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens in Lilith's office at the beginning of Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
When Mira brings up Brennan, Violet says the temperature plummets, like, courtesy of my mother's storm wielding signet.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a specific callback to Lilith. It's a specific callback to something that has happened in Violet's mind, but not necessarily in Xaden's mind. And if Berwin is all up in here walking around Violet's mind, like, he would have access to that memory.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so maybe
So
it's
this is the
Violet's
one
dream.
I'm not convinced. I'm interested.
another
This
one
is
that
the
I'm
one
not
I
either.
thought you. Okay, all right, interesting. This is the one I thought.
Yeah. I think one more point on this dream, though. So, I think the next time we see the sage after this dream is when the sage, Berwin, I keep calling him the sage because we're never actually told this is Berwin. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, that's fair.
The sage from the dreams brings his wyvern to test the wards, and he watches them die, and then he goes away.
Well, we're told it's the same sage as from Resin.
Yeah, which would mean that it should be Berwin. I'm just clarifying that it's never.
Okay, yes, it's
never
never
made
explicitly said.
explicit.
They never say, "Oh, our friend Berwin here." Yeah.
And then between this dream and Maren's dream, in Iron Flame chapter 40, Violet says, if I didn't feel him in my swollen lips and every sore muscle in my body, I'd almost think I dreamed him coming back yesterday. I think that's maybe just like fun foreshadowing, but also, I don't know, like what are the limits of this dream walking? Like, can you go places? I don't know. And then in Iron Flame chapter 42, this is when Violet asks Taryn, and you already brought this up, do you see my dreams? And Taryn basically says he has better things to do. It's like, if a dream bothers you, leave it. Stop allowing yourself to be tortured like a hatchling and wake yourself like an adult. And so again, it's not a no. And it's almost tricky wording by Taryn because it's like he knows. He's like, wake yourself up.
Yeah,
You
right.
got
That's
this.
why I'm calling fucking bullshit on. He says, wake yourself up. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, I'm about to say that's not how dreams work for humans. And he's like, oh, I know nothing about this. Like, I don't really believe him.
And to be fair, though, like, Taryn has yelled at Violet to wake up before. Like, we know that Violet almost got killed while she was asleep, and he was like, wake the fuck up.
Right. Right. Okay. But that's before this signet manifests.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm saying it doesn't necessarily need to, him saying wake yourself up is not like he necessarily knew about dreamwalking because he has said wake yourself up before.
But he woke her up. So yeah. Okay. I think it's also worth noting here that Xaden says there's a conversation they have after Violet realizes she can dreamwalk where he says, my signet doesn't work on dragons. My intrinsic signet doesn't work on dragons. So yours probably doesn't either. But we have that line in Fourth Wing that we keep going back to where Taryn says, don't try to read me, human. Right? So is Xaden lying about that? And can Violet potentially dreamwalk in dragon's dreams? In which case all of Taryn's secrets are not safe.
Which, good, because there are many. And I want to know them.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So that is the conclusion of our Iron Flame dream.
Yep. So that all happened before Xaden ever channeled.
Before
from
Xaden
the
ever
earth.
channels. Yes. So Berwin can walk into anyone's dreams, it seems. Which means Violet can walk into anyone's dreams, which is kind of terrifying. Any other like big conclusions from that?
Not from the Iron Flame dreams, no.
Not from the Iron Flame dreams. Okay. All right, so the first dream we get in Onyx Storm is the Maren dream. I'm just gonna kind of
You can paraphrase it.
paraphrase it. So basically, we find out that this is a dream from the fall of Cliffsbane Academy. She is desperately searching for a picture of her parents in this dream. The building is literally on fire. There's blue flames, so we know that's a wyvern. At one point, she knocks over a mirror. She's desperately trying to find this picture. She starts digging through a trunk at the end of her bed. The trunk is described as endless, so that tells you there's some dream logic going on here. Kat shows up, and Maren is like, Kat says, we have to go, and Maren says, I need to find this. You go, save yourself. This is you're the future queen of Tyrandor. Like, he'll take you back. I know he will. This is that dream. Does end up finding the picture of her parents, but then it turns into her family on fire in front of her.
And they burn.
Yeah. And after Xaden and Violet realize, so this is the first dream in Onyx Storm, but after Xaden and Violet realize that Violet has been mind walking, she goes and talks to Maren. She finds out the picture is still there, and she's like, it can't be the same because the picture was destroyed, not realizing that it was a dream, right? So, and that's Maren says, it used to be my worst nightmare that it was on fire.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but I think she also recognizes it, and she's like, "Oh shit, I've seen it."
Yeah,
before.
she recognizes it, and she recognizes Maren's brothers when they go save them.
And the context of where that dream took place, the whole squad was sleeping in Xaden's old room at Samara, and Violet wakes up in that same room. She tells Rhea about the dream, and Riddick is like, "You guys need to shut up." Yeah, I guess reactions to that, I think that one's super straightforward, honestly. To me, that dream existed and was put in there to tell us two things. One, that it's not a Bond thing, that she can walk into people's dreams who are not just Xaden. And two, that she, unless she consciously decides not to, feels she like truly can embody the exact feelings and emotions of the dreamer. Like she felt all of those things for Kat and thought those things for Kat, despite obviously being Violet and not Maren.
Yeah, that's a great point. She's absolutely fully inhabiting the feelings of the person who's dreaming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of instances here. I don't remember if it happens in Iron Flame, but in Onyx Storm, this is kind of the first one. She says, I can't find it. I try to yell, but it comes out as merely silent. Why can't I scream? But then Maren is obviously talking to Kat, right? Yeah. So why can't she scream, but Maren can talk to Kat? I think this is the first instance of the meddling that Xaden references. So this is something Violet on her own wants to say, but because she doesn't realize she's dreamwalking, she can't say it yet. She can't talk. She doesn't have that awareness. Yeah. The only other note I had in here is that Maren breaks a mirror. We know that Auric receives a broken mirror on the Isle of Zahilna. So I'm wondering, is this a tie to luck or perhaps a foreshadowing of an Auric-Maren romance? I don't know.
Would be fun.
And I'd be way better with that than a Kat.
Something's broken inside me that I'm kind of like, I want Kat to have her happy ending.
I'm fine with Kat having a happy ending, not with Auric.
Not with Auric. Maybe she can change Halden.
Yeah, maybe. I think that would be more fitting.
I think she's gonna end up with a flyer though, honestly.
I don't know. I think it would be. I feel like she might end up with Auric. Like it would unite the
kingdoms.
Yeah, we go down this rabbit hole every time. We don't need to talk about it again.
It's weird that I'm so invested in it. I don't understand why. Anyways, that's really all I had on that dream.
Yeah, not too much to analyze on that dream, but a fun one nonetheless. All right, so we have our next Onyx Storm dream. I don't have the chapter number. Chapter 45, thank you. I hang in the air suspended by an invisible hand around my throat as lightning strikes in the distance. Fear pumps through my veins, but the harder I fight, the narrower my windpipe becomes, the harder it is to draw breath. Quit fighting it, the sage orders. Quit fighting me. You're dead. This isn't real. I repeat the phrases mentally when my lips refuse to form the words. This is only a nightmare. A very visceral, terrifying nightmare. The fight drains out of me and I fall to the ground before him, hitting my knees and gasping for charred air. And Darna screams, bellowing with rage and pain, and my head snaps towards the ridgeline, towards the storm. Blue fire licks up the hillside, reaching for the city walls of Drathis, devouring the fleeing civilians in its path. Such emotion, the sage tisks, crouching down in front of me. Don't worry, it will fade in time. Fuck you. I lunge forward only to be shoved back to my knees by an invisible force. I'll allow you to help her this time, the sage promises, pushing his robes up to the length of his tanned arms. Okay, so tanned arms again. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Just submit. Come to me, accept where you belong, and you'll find a freedom like no other. And if I don't, I ask, playing into the dream, then you'll find I have ways to bring you to heal. The sage draws a sword from his robes, and the next flash of lightning reflects on the emeralds adorning atop of the hill. Wisps of silver hair blow in the breeze at the edge of my vision, and the sword of Tyrandor rushes towards my chest. wake, I scream, but my mouth won't work. The end.
So this is the one that I was questioning whether it's actually Zayden's dream.
All right, let's talk about it.
Because wisps of silver hair blow in the breeze at the edge of my vision. To me, one of two things has to be happening here. Maybe one of three, but the third is very unlikely. One is this is Violet's dream.
And the silver hair is hers?
And the silver hair is hers. Yep.
Okay.
And that also, like you said, tanned arms, that's good. But like if that's Violet's dream, then that might not be good.
I will tell you, the first time I read this dream, I absolutely thought this was Zayden. I thought this was Zayden being the sage. I
Yeah.
thought this was like a future dream.
Yeah. Two is at the very end of this dream, and we kind of feel it, right? Violet is actually separating herself from Zayden because she realizes, where is it? You're dead. This isn't real. I repeat the phrases mentally when my lips refuse to form the words. So she's like, she is clawing at like the bars of her enclosure within Zayden's body, basically. Like, wake, this isn't real. So maybe she's separating from Zayden, like right at the end of this dream. And that's why the silver wisps appear. And third, I think it's unlikely, but third is a theophany.
Yeah. So I don't know. She has known its dreams before. It's realizing that it's other people's dreams is what makes her separate.
Yeah.
Because she says,
where else would the silver wisps be?
Okay, so I wrote wisps of silver hair blow in the breeze at the edge of my vision. Okay, who do we know with silver hair? 1, Violet. 2, Theophany. 3, Priestess from Umbria.
Could be fun.
Yeah,
Or
it's
Narelle.
weird. Narelle. It's weird, right? Because they blatantly say there's lightning striking in the distance. They blatantly say they're at Drathis, right? So like that to me means like this is Violet off in the distance fighting Theophany, but we know that the dreams are not, they're not precog, they're not reflective of reality necessarily.
Yeah. And also, like, Theophany could be causing that entire storm by herself. Like, Violet could be there and Theophany could be over there, and that still checks out. Same with vice versa.
That's true. I don't know. Like I said, when I first read this dream, I was like, oh, this is a future dream. This is what Zayden's going to become, especially because he has the Sword of Tyrandor, right? And Zayden is the last person to have the Sword of Tyrandor. We've talked about how if this is Berwyn, okay, maybe he's Grandpa Riorson. He wants the Sword of Tyrandor.
Yeah.
But and we know that Berwyn can create dreamwalkers can, we'll get this into this later, but dreamwalkers can create weapons in their own dreams, right? So like he can, it's a dream. It's not real. Yeah. He can just create the Sword of Tyrandor.
Right. Yeah. I want to say, like, I am in the camp of this is Zayden's dream, but I do think like we have to explain the silver wisps. The silver wisps do not make sense. Unless he gets dedicated. We've never seen a male dedicated to Dune.
No, there are priests of we talked about, I think we talked about this in the Isle episode, that there are.
We talked about them existing, but we don't know whether they have silver hair.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I want to talk about one thing and then I want to get back to this because I think it's relevant. We talked about how Sigale is never in these dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Andarna. It's always Andarna screaming, right? Like by Onyx Storm, I don't even think Terran is in the dreams, right? So Andarna screams, bellowing with rage and pain, and my head snaps towards the ridgeline, towards the storm. We know this doesn't happen. Andarna never screams at Drathis. Andarna doesn't show up until the very end, right? Until Zayden's blackout, right? So this is not the future. This is a dream. Yep. Why is Berwyn conjuring Andarna, though, in this dream? Why is he trying to work the emotional connection to Andarna rather than Sigale, rather than Terran? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer, but I will say when I first read it, and again, like when I first read these things, I was being naive, right? But when it first came out that Violet was walking in Zayden's dream, aside from the one with the gold, I was like, is it actually Sigale? Like that's a little bit of a reach, but like
no, I don't think it is.
I think that Violet knows what Sigale sounds like is the reason I think it's a reach. But like if you're hearing like a female dragon scream, like is this Sigale to Zayden? And Violet just thinks it's Andarna because she's like, I'm locked in my own.
Yeah, dream. No, I do think we have to kind of filter all the dreams through that. I had the same thought. Like, is it actually Sigale every time she says I hear Andarna scream? Yeah. So the other note I had is the sage says, I'll allow you to help her this time. The sage promises, pushing his robes up the length of his tan arms. Just submit, come to me, accept where you belong, and you'll find a freedom like no other. And this is Drathis, right? So did Berwyn actually let Zayden go at the end of Drathis? Like, because he says, I'll allow you to help her this time. Yeah. And we know that this battle is supposed to be like representative of Drathis. They're at Drathis.
Yeah.
And I think that Zayden, I mean, we don't know for sure, but pretty sure that Zayden gets away from Berwyn at Drathis. Oh, no, he definitely does. Sorry. He definitely gets away from
Yeah.
Zadin at Dreythus. So did Berwin let him go, is what I'm saying, because he says, I'll let you help her this time. Is the her Sigale, and this time is Dreythus.
Yeah, maybe.
So once again, I don't think we have a lot of answers
Yeah. Just rounding out the context before this dream is when Violet is confessing to her friends that Xaden is slowly turning Venin, and Xaden has absconded at this point, so he is not around.
Xaden's not around, yeah.
Xaden's not around when this dream happens.
So distance does not matter. Good to keep in mind since they're separated now.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Chapter 50.
Chapter 50. Ooh, 45 and then 50, so close together.
I know. They're all pretty close together at this point.
Yeah. Spring green meadow grass bends under my boots as the first drops of rain fall. I shouldn't be here. I know what happens here. And yet, this is where I'm called time and time again. This is the price of saving her life. Lightning splinters the sky, illuminating the high walls of Dreythus and its spiraling tower in the distance and outlining dozens of wings in the sky. If I move fast enough, I'll get there this time. But my legs won't obey and I stumble, just like I always do. He steps out of nothingness straight into my path and my heart pounds as though increasing the speed of its beats will cease it from sinking through my chest. I grow weary of waiting. The sage pulls back the hood of his robe, revealing red-rimmed eyes and scarlet veins branching at his temples like roots. I am not yours. I flip my palm, summoning the power that's come to define me, but nothing rises except my own panic. Before I can reach for my blades, I'm yanked into the air. Icy fingers wrap around my neck, too vaporous to fight, yet substantial enough to nearly cut the flow of air. Pain sears my throat. Asshole. My magic never works here, but his always does. You are ours. The sage's eyes narrow with malice. You will bring what I want. His grip tightens with every word, allowing only a trickle of air into my lungs. Or she dies. I'm through waiting, and I will not allow her to win such a prize. I sweep the sky for a familiar set of wings as I hear her scream, but find none as the rain begins in earnest. He's bluffing. I force the words out. Do not have her. He drops his arms, and I fall to my knees on the grass, pulling breath after breath to replace what he denied me. But I will, he vows, because you'll bring her to me. The fuck I will. Anger cuts through the fear, and I slam my left hand to the ground. Rain runs off my flight jacket and courses over the edge of my relic in rivulets as I flex my fingers in the wet grass, splaying my fingers wide. My hand. It doesn't look like mine. There it is. Power courses through the earth beneath me, ready and willing to annihilate their forces if I have the courage to let go of the impossible dreams I've clung to and accept the fate Zanal has dealt me. I only have to reach, and they'll be safe. She'll be safe. No, this is wrong. This is a dream. Only a dream. And yet he holds me here night after night. Fighting through the weight of the nightmare, I wrench my hand from the ground. Wake, I scream, but no sound emerges. The city will fall. Yours will be next, the sage promises. Wake. I jerk my head up, only to find the sword of Tyrandor at my throat. The sage draws his arm back. That's it.
This is a big one.
This is a big one.
This is the one that's right before.
This is where they realize she's dreamwalking.
She's dreamwalking. Right.
Yeah. And
a lot to unpack.
I will say, I thought that this was peak fuckery with pronouns, but actually the next one is peak fuckery with pronouns. But like Rebecca, like so many hers, so many she's.
Yeah.
Like, so fucking.
So let's start from the top. Who do you think? So this is the price of saving her life. Do you think this is Violet, Sigale, or Andarna?
Okay, so obviously the first time I read it, I thought it was Violet. And then after reading The End of Onyx Storm, I thought it was Sigale. And I'm no longer sure.
I think it's Sigale.
Yeah.
So the first time I read it, I thought it was Andarna because I thought it was Violet's dream. Still.
Yeah. I'm okay. Sorry. Yeah. First, that's fair. That's fair.
Second time I read it, I thought it was Violet because I know.
Right. There are 4 hers at play here. There's Violet, Sigale, Andarna, Theophany.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think the price of saving her life ultimately is Sigale. You do not have her.
I'm sorry, there's 5 hers at play here because Mira is also at play, actually.
Yeah, right. So you do not have her. To me, I actually think that's Violet.
So Xaden says after this dream, he wants me to bring him you.
Yeah.
Violet. Right.
Right.
I don't know that we can confirm that if this is the pronoun fuckery that's happening in the dream, but Xaden seems to think it's Violet. I don't think we have a reason to not think it's Violet other than that Rebecca wrote it this way. Right. Yep.
And obviously I think I will not allow her to win such a prize is Theophany.
That's Theophany. That's Theophany. For sure. Unless it's not. Unless it's Violet. Unless he won't let Violet win such a prize because Xaden's fighting for Violet. But I think it's Theophany.
Yeah. And then, of course, like all of it comes out when Zayden lays his hand on the ground. It's a relict hand. She's like, wait a second, this isn't my hand. And she feels all of Zayden's emotions and tries to break out of the dream and actually gets him to lift his hand. And that's the meddling, right? Like at the end of the dream, I wrench my hand from the ground and resists. And Zayden is not the one doing that. I don't think. So this is the first time Violet realizes, and I think it's an important point, she can influence the actions of the POV, not just break out of the POV.
Yeah, that's true. She can
Which
actually
is almost bodily control. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's worth noting too, and we'll get into this in the next stream, I think, but Berwin does not realize Violet is there until the next stream, is our assumption, because he says, hello, lightning wielder.
But Zayden mentions that he feels like someone's in his dreams with them, watching him.
Right. So I think it's interesting too, because there is a moment earlier in the dream where I think Violet is also trying to influence it when he says, if I move fast enough, I'll get there this time, but my legs won't obey and I stumble just like I always do. I wrote, so is this Violet actually trying to get to the tower? Does Zayden never try to get to the tower, right? Because I guess if he says I stumble just like I always do, maybe he does try to get to the tower and Berwin won't let him.
Yeah.
The line, my magic never works, but his always does. We've talked about that. That obviously means Violet's magic will also work in dreams. Whether or not that has implications in the real world, I think is yet to be seen. We obviously have that theory that maybe Berwin killed Asher in his sleep, but we also have the theory that Asher used too much time, which I'm leaning towards more now. But it kind of feels like it has to have implications in the real world, or what is the point? Yeah. But spying, I mean, you could spy, right? Like you can be in someone's dream without them knowing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy powerful. Right. So you will bring what I want or she dies. I'm through waiting. We talked about this, right? When we thought this was Violet's dream, we thought this was Darna. Now that it's Zayden's dream, Zayden thinks it's Violet. Mm-hmm. I still think it's interesting that Berwin says, here, you will bring what I want. Mm-hmm. Not you will bring her to me, you will bring who I want. Like, yeah. Does that mean Violet is a what? Does that mean Violet is like a thing that the Venin have been waiting for? Or is Berwin actually talking about something else here?
Yeah. And we keep seeing the Sword of Tyrandor. Like, it's a logical question.
We keep seeing the Sword of Tyrandor.
Zayden's the last one to have had it.
Yeah.
So,
is it about the Sword of Tyrandor?
And, well, I guess the stone is from the Blade of Orisha, the stone on Violet's ring finger. But, like, are these magical artifacts that have some intrinsic value that we just aren't aware of yet? I don't know. Yeah, right. So Violet is able to meddle. Violet is able to meddle once she realizes that it's not her dream. I think we already talked about that, but she has to, it's like what you said, right? A long time ago in Signets that I kind of made fun of you for, but it's like the riders have to realize that they have this power. Like they have to believe in themselves that they can do it in order for them to do it. No, you're totally right. And I was the asshole there and I apologize. Yeah. All of the dreams, I think, I interpret each of them as what is Rebecca trying to reveal to us in this dream? And obviously there's all of those things we just talked about. But as far as Violet's signet abilities, this to me is she can change the actions of the person that she's in. Because we don't see that in the next one, right? She just separates herself. Well, okay. So the other thing I had, two things. Wake, I scream, but no sound emerges. So she still can't like talk, but I guess that would be, I don't know. I guess that would be weird. I don't know. So she can make Zayden's hand move, but she can't scream. And then the sage says, this city will fall, yours will be next. So like, I know they already kind of came for Orisha, but like, are they really coming? I mean, that's obviously where we're headed, right? Like obviously the final battle is going to be in Orisha. It's not. Where else would it be? It wouldn't have an emotional component to it if it wasn't an Orisha, but... Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Do you want to talk about after the dream? Yeah. For the sake of the listeners, I mean, when she wakes up from this dream, Zayden's still locked in the nightmare. She's like, we gotta get out of this. And he immediately jumps to her and is like, are you okay? He says, my hand looked like yours. They start talking about the dream, and Zayden is like, oh shit, you are in my dreams. And we have the very specifically worded line, as you've mentioned, 2 hours later, I've told him about every dream I can remember with the sage, and Zayden's had every single one. So when Zayden is still in the dream, Violet says, my chest tightens at the visible pain on his face, and I throw myself down the bond. So like, Zayden is in pain. He is in physical pain. Which I think, and Violet Violet mentions a couple times in this dreams, like, oh shit, I can feel this. Right.
Again, I don't know if that means you can kill someone in a dream. Like, I know at one point she's bleeding in the dream. She wakes up, she's not bleeding. I just think that's an open question, basically. Like, how much pain can someone actually be caused in a dream?
Yeah. So pain is, even if bodily harm is not being inflicted, pain can like put your body under an amount of stress that could cause problems.
Sure.
I agree that I like the time travel killing Asher better, but if Asher was held in pain for like, multiple nights,
yeah,
you could have a heart attack.
I think heart attack is still on the board. I don't think being mysteriously stabbed in your sleep is on the board, but I think heart attack is on the board.
Yeah, agree. So, okay.
Xaden mentions he's had these dreams once a week since Resin, which, like, first of all, poor Xaden. That sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's way before he channeled, and clearly Violet is not in all of these dreams.
Right. Although Violet does mention early on after Resin that she's having dreams. Here, I have the quote. So Xaden asks early in Iron Flame, he asks, "Do you have nightmares about Resin? Is that why you can't sleep?" And she says, "I dream of a million different ways we could have lost. Sometimes I dream it's Imogen who dies, or Garrick, or you. Those are the ones that make it impossible to sleep afterwards, the ones where their sage takes him from me." So
why are we forgetting about Bodhi once again? Like, what the fuck, Violet?
Because his signet is being undetectable. Yeah, I know. Justice for Bodhi. But anyways.
Just can't with this bitch anymore.
He literally gave you his flight jacket so he didn't freeze to death.
He's in love with you.
Yeah.
Keep forgetting about him.
Anyways, so like Violet is dreaming about Resin often. We just don't know whether those are Xaden's dreams or not. But I think like we can kind of infer that when she says, "I've told him about every dream I can remember with the sage," and then she says earlier, "Those are the ones that make it impossible to sleep, the ones where their sage takes him from me." She actually is probably in more than we're hearing about, if I had to guess.
Interesting. That's an interesting point. Yeah. Okay. So she's in more than we're hearing about. I wanted to talk about, this is the one where they figure out that this is her second signet from Andarna. And what Xaden says is, her kind are peaceful and the ability itself would be passive, even a gift in a culture like that. So the word gift has popped up here once again. And we know that Violet can do this when Andarna is gone. So I'm still of the mind that Irids give gifts.
Are giving gifts.
Dragons give signets. Irids give gifts. You keep the gift from the Irid, regardless of whether or not the Irid is still around. And I'm starting to think that's important for a couple of reasons. We'll get to in my pre-cog corner theory. So then Xaden says, Violet says there's no such thing as mind walking. Xaden says there is such a thing. It is absolutely more dangerous than lightning. It's a form of intrinsic. Xaden is so sure it's a thing. Does he realize at this point in time that perhaps Berwyn is a dreamwalker too? And that Berwyn is
I assume so. Like, why else would Xaden know that this is a thing?
But
like,
he also has a line that like he has to go to Drathis to remind himself it's just a dream. But I don't know.
Yeah, but so that line is actually super confusing to me because Xaden says exactly what you just said. He's like, it is a thing, but he claims that he hasn't realized that he's in nightmares when he's in them. So like the only dreamwalker we know of that's not Violet is Berwyn.
I guess we should actually take a step back here because we are talking like that as fact, and it hasn't been confirmed, but it seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like it's never said in the books that these are dreams that Berwyn is creating for Xaden, but like it has to, like that's clearly what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I guess Xaden could create these dreamscapes himself unconsciously, and maybe Berwyn is not actually there.
But Berwyn says it so many times, like, "I'm the reason you're still here. I'm holding you here. I'm why you can't escape." Like it's said so many times.
I appreciate you trying to clarify, but I actually reject that notion. I think it's a fact. Okay.
If you're a very light reader, you might not.
Yeah, fine.
Picked up on it. I don't know if I picked up on it the first time I read it, but yeah. Berwyn is clearly also the other dreamwalker.
Yeah. Yes, agree. But why does Xaden, like, if Xaden isn't realizing, like, I guess maybe Xaden is just waking up and realizing that, like, Berwyn is holding him in his dreams every night and is like, fuck, like, Berwyn's a dreamwalker. But, like, he seems very confident that that is a standalone signet for someone who has only encountered one in his dreams himself. So then they talk about why she manifested this and the fact that she manifested it because of Andarna and the dreamless sleep. Bull fucking shit.
Bullshit. No. We've said it before. We'll say it again. Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, It's a dreamless, quote unquote, sleep. Yeah, I just don't buy it. I don't think that this is the need that inspired this signet. So maybe I should actually just clarify, because we haven't really talked about this since like the Violet deep dive, which was our first episode ever. Like, I do not subscribe to the theory that she's only a dreamwalker. I think she has been needing to be in people's heads for this entire series, and I do not think she's going to be limited to sleep.
This is going to get us my precog corner theory. So
Okay.
But I agree with you. Bullshit on the dreamless sleep. We've said it since day one. Doesn't make any sense.
We talked about the fact that they basically say, you know, there were nights when we were hours apart from each other. So I guess distance doesn't matter. Good to know.
Good for us. Also, I was like so excited about the dream sex until I read Crescent City. And I was like, this has been done.
Yeah.
We can cut that since it was a spoiler for Crescent City.
I mean, you didn't say who, so I think it's fine. Anything else on this stream?
No, that was it, really.
This is also where Taryn is like, Andarna, what the hell? You didn't say anything? So the passage, just to be clear, like when Zayden's like, you walk straight into them. My jaw slackens and I reach for Andarna. Is it true? Taryn rustles but stays silent. What does he know? I did not choose it any more than Taryn chose lightning, she says defensively. But you have been known to wander while dreaming. It's harmless. You're mostly drawn to him. The blanket falls from my fingers. And you said nothing? Taryn growls. You did not inform her the first time she wielded lightning, Andarna argues. She needed to discover it herself. So both of them are aware when she's channeling. Or when she's wielding, excuse me.
Well, Andarna is aware.
Andarna is aware when Violet wielded lightning and when Violet was walking dreams. Taryn is seemingly, I say seemingly because I'm not sure, seemingly unaware of when Violet is dream walking. Because he says, and you said nothing? Like, are you fucking kidding me, Andarna? What the hell? So, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. We have, I think, one more dream, right?
We have one more dream.
And it's a juicy one.
It's a juicy one. Do we want to read this whole one too? Yeah, we've done them all for all the other ones. We might as well. All right. Ready for audiobook brought to you by Abby? I stand in the field in front of Drathus, surrounded by the peaks of snow-topped mountains. And even though I shouldn't, I take the first step toward the city. I'm too far. I'll never reach Taryn, and he's my only chance at finding her. Battle erupts in the sky over its spiral tower, and the outlines of wings pop through the ominous clouds hovering over the canyons to the south before descending into darkness once more. The storm gives me the one thing I can never really afford: hope. The rain might make flying a pain in the ass, but it will give her the edge she needs. Fire erupts along the high walls, and flames of blue and green rise, climbing the guard towers like ivy. Shit, I have to get there now. I can put it out. Shadow beats flame every time. My footsteps falter and I pause. Shadow? I don't wield shadows. Zayden does. My body fights to lurch forward to run toward the city, but I shouldn't continue across this field. It only ever ends one way, with the sage yanking me into the air. This is Zayden's dream. Awareness prickles the back of my neck. I'm in Zayden's dream. The realization does something that feels like a snap across the back of my skull. Suddenly, I'm no longer a part of him as he takes off running ahead of me, dressed for battle. Zayden, I shout before he can make it half a dozen steps. He stops, then slowly turns to face me in the grass-covered field. His eyes widen when he spots me, then narrow as he glances left, then right. You shouldn't be here. That's an understatement. I take in our surroundings with a quick glance. The field is barren, but if this dream is anything like his others, it won't be for long. You aren't safe. He shakes his head and stalks towards me. I can't keep you safe. This isn't real. I take his ice-cold hand in mine, then startle. I can feel that. Why can't you escape this place? What keeps you here? I do, the sage answers from behind Zayden. Zayden whips around, reaching over his shoulder for a blade that disappears, and I move to his side. The sage pulls back the hood of his maroon robe, revealing the freakishly young face that haunts my, Zayden's, dreams, and smiles, cracking the skin of his chapped lips. The veins along his temples pulse crimson as he folds his gnarled hands like this has the possibility of being a civil encounter. It's so nice of you to join us, Lightning Wielder. He tilts his head. Or should I call you Dreamwalker? My lips part. Zayden's nightmares are eerily on point. We should go, I whisper. He can't. The sage's smile widens and he lifts his bony hand. Zayden rises and claws at his throat. Wake up, I shout at Zayden. I told you, he can't. And here I'd hoped you'd be a quick learner. How disappointing, the slave lectures, then slits his eyes like a snake towards Zayden. You lost something I wanted, but you will bring her, he demands. Never. Zayden forces through his throat, and his feet kick for the ground. Don't worry, the sage says with a twisted smile. I'll be a more merciful teacher than Theophany. Fear races down my spine, and I reach for power. Stop. This is a dream. It isn't real. He isn't losing air. He's breathing just fine in our bed. I have to wake up, but that only ever happens once the sage strikes. His sword coming down on me. Pain. I need pain. I reach for my thigh, but only find a smooth layer of leather. I am done waiting, the sage snarls. Done playing this little game. You may have raised your wards, but they won't save you. We have the advantage, and if you do not deliver her, then she will come herself. He closes his fist, and Xaden wheezes. It's simple, Dreamwalker. You come or she dies. She who? This is a dream, I remind myself, and if it were mine, I'd be armed. I slide my hand down my hip and find the hilt of a dagger. Before I can second guess my plan, I wrench it free. The sage's eyes widen on the polished wooden handle, but I'm already swinging it toward my arm. The blade sinks into my skin. I jolt upright in bed and gasp for breath, blinking furiously to clear the haze of the nightmare as dawn breaks outside our bedroom window. Oh boy, that was a doozy.
Yeah.
All right, where do you want to start?
I mean, Violet is conscious within Xaden's dream. Before the dream, Xaden and Violet are in the throne room after Bodhi says he doesn't want the crown, and Brennan gives Xaden some mail. And then when they wake up...
And Brennan delivers the mail.
Literally. And then after the dream, they wake up and basically talk about how she separated herself. I'm pretty sure, and I have to actually look at the passage, I'm pretty sure she wakes up and then has to wake up Xaden.
Yeah,
which is starting to scare me because Xaden is no longer able to wake himself.
I have in my notes, what would have happened if Violet wasn't there?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yep. And Xaden, like, when he wakes up, remembers that she was there. So he, like, in a way, she's actually pulling him out of his dream consciousness by being there, which I think is going to help him at the end of the day. I hope it's going to help him at the end of the day. The sage also obviously acknowledges her directly, which I think is the first proof that he's dreamwalking. I think the sage at this point is pretty confirmed dreamwalking, because before this, you could argue that it's like Xaden's worst fears, but he looks directly at her and is like, hey.
So here's my thing with this. Why? Okay, let's say that my theory that the second dream is actually Violet's is wrong, and that it is all Xaden's dreams. Why are they going to Xaden? Why aren't they going right to Violet? Like, why do this stupid fucking workaround, right? Like, is there something about dreamwalking that shields you from being a different dreamwalker, even if you don't know? Like, why the workaround? Why all the red tape? Why such bureaucracy and Veninism?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think, like, this is gonna sound like a dig at Xaden, and I don't mean it to, but, like, Violet is much stronger-willed when it comes to, like, her own protection than Xaden is. Like, I think Xaden is just the easier target.
Yeah,
honestly.
Maybe.
And that's kind of what I come back to with the you lost something I wanted to. Like, I have racked my brains because, like, we've talked about, the sage in the stream says, you lost something I wanted, but, like, whatever, basically. Like, I still want Violet. This is right after Andarna leaves. We have been, or at least I have been racking my brains to think of, like, what else did Xaden lose between this dream and the last one? I think it's still Andarna, honestly.
I think it's Andarna, too. I actually wrote that here. You lost something I wanted. What did Xaden lose? I know. It just, like, doesn't make any sense. Why would you go to Xaden to get Andarna? I don't know.
I think it comes back to, like, what's simple. Like, if he went into Violet's mind and was like, give up Andarna, Violet would be like, absolutely not. If he went into Xaden's mind and is like, Violet will live if you give up Andarna, Xaden would be like, okay.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But the other, like, really important part of this dream is that Violet creates a dagger in the dream and stabs herself. That is fucking sick.
Yeah.
And important.
Okay, hold on, real quick. I think Dane would give up Andarna. I don't think Xaden would give up Andarna. I think that's the fundamental difference. Dane would do anything to protect Violet. Xaden would bring Violet in, right? Yeah. Xaden would let Violet make her own choices.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So this is why you pick Xaden over Dane every time. Okay, Violet creates a dagger. And the sage's eyes widen on the polished wooden handle. So why did the sage's eyes widen? Is it because Violet can create weapons in this dream and maybe he can't? Or is it this dagger specifically is important? Yeah. We haven't seen a dagger with a polished wooden handle. I don't know where Violet got this idea from. I don't know why she wouldn't create a dagger. What's
the alloy?
The alloy dagger. Thank you. I don't know why she wouldn't create an alloy dagger. I don't know why she'd create this dagger. Whose dagger is this? Or is it just, oh shit, Violet can create weapons? That's bad news for me.
It feels anticlimactic if that's the case. Like,
no, I think it's
they're both. Dreamwalkers, like, he can probably also create whatever he wants. Like, why is he so shocked that
Well,
she
he
can?
got rid of Zayden's swords before, right? Zayden
Right.
reaches for his swords and they disappear,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it could be the pace at which she's learning. We know that Violet is actually inherently very skilled at mind work, right? Because of how quickly she can put up her shields.
Yeah.
So maybe Berwin is just like, similar to Zayden, oh fuck, that took me months. She
Yeah.
just realized how to do this.
Yeah, she just did it. Yeah.
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 Or it's the dagger. It'd be so much more fun if it's the dagger.
It would be.
Yeah.
Especially if she sees it somewhere else in the future.
I looked for polished, I searched these books
Yeah.
for polished wooden. The only thing that came up was the exercise machine that's in the gym that she does with Imogen. I was like, I don't think that's it.
I don't think that's
I don't
it.
think that's
No.
related. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking that's wooden is Liam's carvings of all the dragons. So is there
Yeah.
some relation there? We had gotten some theories that somehow maybe like this was on the other people talking to Liam post.
Yeah.
That like maybe he had somehow like horcruxed his soul into the wood carvings. I don't know, maybe, but I do think, you know, that's kind of the other wooden thing that comes up
Yeah.
in my mind.
On that theory, I think it's probably more likely if the fact that your belongings weren't burned means that you're still wandering, which
Means it's like really
a lot of people.
that puts Asher in play. That puts like pretty much everyone in play. I was thinking about this belongings being burned thing. Like, where does the line get drawn?
What happens with the scribes?
What happens with all of Asher's books, right?
Yeah,
Every book that someone has written. What happens to your house? Like, this stops making sense pretty quickly.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It would be more fun if it were the dagger. I agree. It could very realistically be how quickly she figured out how to do it. Like in the same dream that she figured out how to separate, she's creating a dagger. I don't know. It seems aggressive.
Right. And so maybe it's not, because we talked about this, like maybe Berwin can kill people, maybe he can't. But also maybe if, like we said, Violet at least needs to die to wake up. Right. So if Violet can kill Berwin in these dreams, then he is no longer in control. Right. He can be kicked out of these dreams.
Yeah.
If Violet finds him.
Right. Yeah. So is Violet going to be able to free people from Berwin's dreams? Maybe. That would be fun.
Or hold Berwin in a dream. Hold anyone in a dream. Really. And torture them. Basically. I mean, she can fucking torture Atos in a dream. I would.
The only other note I have on this dream, and then I have some general theories at the end, is Garrick shows up and is carrying Tiny's scale.
Oh my God. I thought you said Tiny's scale. You said Tina's scale.
His scale. He shows up and she thinks he's holding a shield, and he's actually holding Mira's dragon's scale. And I have in caps. So they are definitely making dragon scale armor.
Yeah, no, the dragon scale armor thing is definitely real. That's definitely happening. Yeah.
Okay.
The more you look for it, the more you see it.
General theories.
Okay.
Or just like points.
Let's do it.
That I think are interesting. One is about Violet's consciousness. We've already talked about how Violet shares consciousness with the person that whose dream she's occupying. She also shares contextual knowledge with the dreamer and knows things that the dreamer knows. And I think that's going to be huge. And the reason we know this is when she says, I can't explain how I know since I've only ever seen it from a distance, but the last couple of times we've been near Drathus.
Well, and she knows Maren's family. It's the same thing when she sees a picture of Maren's family and recognizes it as her family.
Yeah. So she is registering knowledge of the person that she's occupying. So if she actually hones her signet and can walk into other people's dreams, she's gonna start knowing things that other people know, which could become super significant if she starts walking into leadership's dreams, Venin's dreams, Aiden's dreams. Yeah.
I just feel like she has to walk into Taryn's dreams. I just feel like it has to happen. I don't know.
And imagine the thing she's going to find out then. Taryn is so big because he's full of secrets.
Some people will get that reference.
We already talked about how the abilities don't seem to be limited by physical distance. Violet says, I've had the dream on nights you weren't with me, when you were hours away. The dreamer can also recognize when she's there. I think the way this comes into play is she starts having to be strategic about how she's working in these dreams, whether she stays within the POV and starts to meddle and understand things, or whether she separates out, because based on what Zayden is saying, once she separates out, like the dreamer knows that she's there.
Yeah, there's two paths for this, right? There's the spying, which is what
Right.
we're talking about here, going and gathering information. And then I think there's the fighting, which is what she starts to do with Berwin, but then for some reason taps out, takes herself out instead of trying to fight Berwin. Yeah.
And then the last note that I have, and this is like, this could be nothing. In chapter 54, when Andarna leaves.
I love when you start a theory with it could be nothing, because it means it's going to blow my mind every time.
It could be nothing. It actually could be nothing. In chapter 54, when Andarna leaves, Violet mentions she sleeps, but she doesn't dream. What I'm wondering is, does this mean that Andarna actually did shut down the bond for a period? That is a argument against dreamwalking
gifts
being an inherent gift, but reopened it and was in hiding when Violet started dreamwalking again. Did Andarna actually go away, but then come back and kind of stay hidden?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe she was so drained from the sudden absence of Andarna that she just had nothing in her to drain.
Yeah, I think either of those
anybody else's
is possible. Yeah, was Andarna just secretly in Arisha the whole time with the other hidden den of Irids?
I actually think it's totally possible that she literally left for like basically that time that Violet was in bed and then was back. I'm serious. I would not be shocked.
I don't know.
They can literally blend in.
I know. And they
She
can
has
appear
come
as
out of,
other
like-
dragons.
Yeah, let's move on. Is there anything else that you had general theories on dreams?
Just my Pre-cog, which is dreamwalking related.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, should we go to Pre-cog corner?
Sure. All right.
Okay,
Pre-cog corner music. One day we might have actual segment music. It'll be fun.
Maybe.
Okay, so back to our favorite people, the Irids. So what Leothin says to Andarna before we know what signet Violet has gotten from Andarna is, and you gifted her something far more dangerous, didn't you?
Mhm.
And we know that what Xaden says is that Andarna, her people are peaceful, right? Her people are considered peaceful. It would be considered a gift in their culture, right? So why would the Irids think that dream walking is dangerous, right? Because like Xaden has a good point that they're peaceful. They would think it's harmless. They would think it's a gift. Why would they think that dream walking is dangerous? I think the Irids know that dream walking is dangerous because they've gifted it before, and they've gifted it to Berwin. So the way that Berwin got this signet is from an Irid, right? Irids. So I just know that dreamwalking is far more dangerous because they gifted it before. Berwin ends up with it. Now he's using it to recruit for the Venin and possibly also kill people, right? So at some point, even if he's Grandpa Riorson, based on the theory we were just talking about before, where like Tyrandor might have been a mecca of Irids living peacefully with people, if the Irids had given him this gift, he had the dreamwalking ability. He still has it, right? Because it's a gift. It's not a signet. He still has it. He's basically using it to recruit for the Venin. That's how he got the gift. Or if we're going off the you get the signets of the people you kill theory, he killed someone who was bonded to an Irid. I think it's much more, not bonded to an Irid, but got the gift from an Irid. I think it's much more likely that he got this gift from an Irid. And that's the balance, right? That's how the balance works. And that's what Andarna says, like, nature likes everything in balance. It's the first thing we're taught, right? So like that is the balance. And Irid gave Berwin dreamwalking, so an Irid had to give a non-Venin dreamwalking as well. The other piece of this is Andarna, as we've talked about, means second honor. Everyone says that's because she's Violet's second dragon. What if she's the second Irid to give this gift, right? She has to be the second one. It's in my Pre-cog corner theory. It's not, I'm not that sold on it.
So you think this theory like coexists with Berwin having been bonded to Sigale previously?
I think it still works if you buy my theory that there's a secret Irid den in Arisha.
For anybody who's confused about the secret Irid den, please go listen to History Part 2. There were other dragons when Brennan died. That's where
it might have been Irids.
Yeah, I mean, I have no reason to believe that couldn't be true. And I do think, like, I have this feeling that the Irids and the Venin are intrinsically linked in some way. Like, they are either like two evils that need to, I shouldn't say they're evil, but like two things that need to exist together or cause each other to exist somehow. And this lends itself to that. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
and he also, in a dream, sort of alludes to stopping time.
Exactly. He also alludes to stopping time, which we think is an Irid thing. We think all Irids can probably do that.
Yeah,
based
I think
on
all Irids can.
Asher having so much time to romp around the Isles. That's my theory.
Okay, I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. So Berwin got dreamwalking from an Irid. Got it.
We are just writing our own. This has become a fan fiction podcast.
We could honestly, like, just based off of this, probably write books 4 and 5 or a version of them. It definitely wouldn't be as good. There's that. Okay, well, so my precog corner theory, I'm just carrying it over from the last episode where I basically chose to do a throwaway one. I already had a precog corner theory about the Irids having all of the magic. And I could double down on that, but I'm just going to tell you to go listen to that precog corner theory because I do still think that there is a real possibility that the Irids are the only true source of magic that exists. But this has nothing to do with any of that. It actually is from our history episode.
That's completely irrelevant to what I'm about to tell you.
Completely irrelevant. I want to talk about siphons. There is a part of a quote that is super obvious that I think I just massively overlooked. And so I'm curious whether you also massively overlooked it or whether I'm alone here. When they're first learning about Naolin, who is the only siphon aside from Sloane that we are presented, that we know about, right? It said, Naolin's signet was siphoning. He could absorb power from other sources, other dragons, other riders, and then use it or redistribute it. And my question is, what does use it actually mean? We have only ever seen siphons sap power from something and send it to someone else. And me, in my head, was just thinking, that's what they do. They take power and then they give power because they don't have a signet. Like, they don't have a thing that power manifests into. But that's not what Kaori is saying here. He said use it or redistribute it.
So if Naolin was okay, but like I guess the question is, how do you define use it? Like, because if Naolin is giving that power to Brennan to mend himself as he's dying, is that not using it?
I think that's a redistribution. He's just giving that power to Brennan.
I would think what Sloane does to Brennan when he's healing Mira is a redistribution.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think when he's giving that power, when Naolin is giving that power directly to Brennan to mend himself, that is using it. But I see what you're saying.
But Brennan is dead. Like, how is Brennan using that? Like, how is Brennan, like, hemorrhaging and, like, no pulse? Because he says he died. Like, he was like, you weren't killed.
Okay. Actually, the part of that quote that I thought was fascinating that you just said was they can use the magic of other dragons.
Other dragons, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, right.
How are they not just Venin? Yeah. That's wild.
So, like, I guess what I'm ruminating on is, yes, like, it's crazy that you can, like, siphons seemingly can basically channel, from any power source, the same as Venin. Other sources, other dragons, other riders, like, doesn't matter. They, if there is power there, they can take it, siphon it off, and use it or redistribute it. I'm wondering what use it actually means. Like, if it means you can use the power in the same format you siphoned it in, aka you can use other people's signets, then that is an absolutely crazy signet. Like, that's the craziest signet that exists. But it also makes Brennan's death and subsequent resurrection, like, possibly make a little bit more sense.
Wait. So you think siphons are kind of mimics?
I think siphons, I guess, are mimics, but you can't use that signet unless you're drawing from it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, mimics can just, like, we've never seen a mimic, so God knows what a mimic does. But they have to be actually, like, taking that power. And then it also made me wonder, like, could it make sense if Jack were a siphon then? Because he was literally taking Violet's power and pushing it back into her.
And I guess the Venin do need a siphon if Naolin is not a Venin.
If he's not a Venin, yeah. I still think he's a Venin. But, like, that, so use it or redistribute it, I, like, can't, my brain can't let that go. And, like, what does it mean that Sloane can do? So basically, like, in conclusion, my precog corner theory is I think that siphons can do more than just put power in other places.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen what that is, but I think it's going to end up being
I definitely just glazed right over that. Interesting.
I'm also now just thinking about what other sources means. Dragons, riders, what are other
ground,
sources?
Sky, water.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So can a siphon turn Venin?
I guess if he runs out of, I don't know. Because, like,
what are the other
siphoning is such a mindfuck too, because, like, so Violet, right, who's, like, a lightning wielder, like, she gets her lightning from the power that is Terns. Like, what is, like, how do you burn out siphoning? Like, you're not siphoning the power of your dragon. Your dragon is giving you the power to siphon.
I can't right now. I can't. It's too much. It's hurting.
Anyways.
I think we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah. We're going on 5 hours and
This is
17 minutes.
we
folks,
yeah.
so.
We were like, oh, this is what we do when we start talking about these books. We just keep going and going and going. It's great. All right, it's reading corner time. I guess we're calling it reading corner. Are you reading anything fun?
Yeah, I'm trying to reread A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book, the one that's
what we talked about last episode.
So I guess maybe to just share a little bit of my personality with our audience, I am a selective rereader. So I will go reread either books or parts of books that I just want to reread. So I ended up by accident rereading all of A Court of Silver Flames because that book is fantastic. I also ended up rereading all of A Court of Mist and Fury. I reread like some of A Court of Wings and Ruin, just the parts that I like. But I have no issue. Like, I don't have the like type A in me to be like, I need to reread a book from start to finish. I just pick the parts that I love. So
I will say part of the reason it takes me so long to prep for these episodes is because I will find a passage in any of these books that I like, and I'll just reread the whole fucking chapter. I'll be like, I need the context for this. And then suddenly I'm just like rereading.
So that happens with me with the Empyrean series, but it's usually because we'll be rereading something for a chapter and then like all of the good stuff in this book starts at the end of chapters. So I'll get to the end of the chapter and I'm like, oh, I want to reread this part. This is fun.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant for the Empyrean series, but yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not reading anything. Well, let's assume by this point I'm on book 2 of Throne of Glass and I love it. In reality, I'm halfway through book 1. But let's just assume by the time this is out, I'm on book 2 and I love it.
Love it. Great. Perfect.
I love... How much can I... Okay, Throne of Glass spoilers if you haven't
Throne of Glass spoilers, go away.
I'm going to lightly reference it. I'm only going to lightly reference it. But I love that we have an actual fucking love triangle. And I don't know who she's going to pick. Like, I like them both. I know this is not going to go the way I think it is because it's Sarah J. Maas. But like right now, I'm invested in both these men. I think they both have their pros. I think they both have their cons. I'm excited. And I'm sure I will eat my words in a week. But
no, I mean, I think that's the way that you're supposed to feel. Like, Selena's kind of like a wild card.
I know. I'm like,
in terms of like,
are we gonna get a threesome? Like, it's gonna get.
Well, she's also like, I feel like this is probably the series where Sarah J. Maas actually focuses the most on like furthering the main protagonist, independent of romance plotline. The book is about Selena.
Yeah.
That is what.
No, I really like it. I know people love this series. I'm on board. I'm all in. I
mean, this series like brought me like figuratively to my knees, like sobbed. So
I know. Prepare yourself. What you're saying, like, I'm such a crier. I'm such a crier.
You're done. You're done for.
Well, you're gonna see me next week, and we'll see where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, you've also got literally 8 books to go through, so.
I thought it was 7.
So, actually, this would be fun for our listeners. So, I have read all of Throne of Glass except for Assassin's Blade. I have not read the
prequel.
The prequel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the prequel is the 8th.
Okay. Jesus Christ. How are we ever going to pod about this book? We'll figure it out if we do it.
There's a way.
There's a way.
I mean, you can't. I don't know. I think it needs to be the same structure as this, where we choose like specific theories to dive into.
Maybe that's what we're gonna do. That's our thing.
Yeah.
That's our thing. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's what we're reading, guys.
That's what we're reading. We're excited about it. Thanks for listening to us yap about dreams for, I'm going to guess we're going to edit this down to about an hour and 35 minutes, but we'll see.
I feel like it's going to be, my bet's closer to an hour 45, but
all right. Between an hour 35 and an hour 45. Thank you.
Yeah. You'll get to know which of us are right as you listen to this, which is fun for you. Okay.
Oh, wait. Social media and announcements. Social media, follow us on Dragons in the Details pod on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Email us, dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com. We are also now on Discord if you want to talk about this stuff even more with a bunch of other people who also want to talk about this stuff. It's actually funny. We've had a couple people join and be like, oh, this is great because my book club hated Onyx Storm and now I have people to talk about it with. I'm like, how could anyone hate Onyx Storm? What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I have met some haters, and I get why. Like, I do understand.
I guess I'm just, in my mind, it's such a puzzle box that, like, I don't know. I'm just like, even if I didn't enjoy it, which I do, it just activates my brain so hard that, like.
Yeah. But I think there's people who want to theorize, and then people who want, like, a well-articulated story that doesn't make you think super hard. And this book
I think
doesn't
this
think
is
super hard.
okay. If people don't like Onyx Storm because they don't want to feel the way it's making them feel, I understand that.
Yeah, which was me. When I first read this, I was like, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah, I understand that, but I have a hard time with anyone who's like, this is just a bad book. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
I think there's two primary things that I've heard from people who don't like this book. One is that in the first half they have no idea who anyone is, which I actually resonated with. I was like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Who are these flyers? And then two is like, yeah, you're basically reading a novel of like Xaden slowly dying, which is depressing.
I feel like this is just like, now that I've gone through and do the close reread, I feel like it's more like Rebecca was like, all right, training wheels are off. Y'all better keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I desperately need to go.
Okay.
So, love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.